Hi, everybody, and welcome to episode 3 of the Hear Her Raw podcast. A little bit different today. Rach and I are coming to you from our homes. We're not in the mic'd up studio today, but we are sure to be back there very soon. So, first off, Rach, welcome back. Episode 3 already. How crazy.
It's been crazy, and we've had such wonderful feedback. Like we're getting, as you know, it sounds weird, we're getting stopped at games, people coming up and saying, "Great podcast, I really love your women's view." So yeah, it's exciting to come back for number three and really start to unpack the female game today.
Yeah, it is very exciting. I'm very excited that we're here. So, this week in particular, we have a big episode talking mostly about women's origin, which actually kicks off this afternoon. So, in a couple of hours after we finish recording today, uh, uh, women's game one will go live from Newcastle. So, that is what we'll be focusing on for the first part of the episode. And then, like all of our other episodes, we'll wrap up with a bit of a recap of the Tigers from last week, as well as a little bit of a look forward to the game next week. So, really exciting that Origin is back tonight for the girls. The girls get their first run of the season. But one thing that we've spoken about quite a bit, and one thing that we've really talked about since we decided that we were going to run this podcast, is the debate or the question around women's origin being played before the NRLW season kicks off. So I think we're still at least a week, maybe 2 weeks away from the girls going back to preseason,
Yeah.
let alone from the actual beginning of the NRLW season. So because the women's game, or because Origin sits in a very different place in the calendar in comparison to the men's, do you think Origin happening before the NRLW season starts helps or hinders the game?
I'm personally a fan of having it in the mid part of the season, finding some way to do that. Looking at the formula that they have now, these girls are coming in cold playing. They've only had a 6 week training camp, and that's not really preparing you for match game football. So to me, and I've read some articles from last year, and Ali Brigginshaw came out and said, they're not personally a fan of it being played before the start of the season because they don't feel like they're giving their best performance, the best quality product that the NRLW can be. They want it to be a marquee event, and they don't believe that having it before the start of the NRLW season that they're able to show the best of what they can do.
Yeah, I agree. And we always talk about the NRLW season being so short. If we added 3 weeks of Origin, that increases the season by an extra 3 weeks. Like, give everybody a bye. So everybody has 3 buys.
Yeah.
Like, maybe doesn't, that sort of doesn't make a huge amount of sense. But think about it. If you did, it brings the start of the season forward. It means that those girls are not having such a massive long off season before
Well,
they
they've been
get
off for
back in.
7 months. Many have been off for 7 months before they've
Yeah,
even, played. So, do you have a preseason comp then? Do you try to do some
yeah,
sort of preseason comp? Like, I don't know if that's another way to get around it so they get some match fitness before, the State of Origin series. I don't know. That's just one thing that's been thrown around, a preseason comp similar to what the boys do. So, I mean, that could be an option.
yeah. And I know we're going to probably talk about this a little bit closer to the actual NRLW and Harvey Norman season, but this year for the first time, the NRLW and the Harvey Norman series are also running at the same
Yeah.
time. So at least in the past, these girls were playing in the Harvey Norman, well, quite a few of the girls that actually step up into NRLW are playing in the Harvey Norman Women's Premiership. So they've got that match fitness, but they've also got that ability to show their
Yeah.
skills. At the moment, it feels like, and when we'll talk about team lists a little bit later, but it feels like players are either being chosen because they played last year or because they play for the team that the coach
Yeah.
also
Yeah. Yeah.
coaches when we talk about the New South Wales team. But in saying that, I guess there is maybe a couple of positives about it as well, being that every player is available.
Yeah.
Like that,
Yeah.
the coaches do have the pick of the crop because nobody's injured yet because
Yeah.
they haven't played. It
I
means that
think.
once the NRLW does kick off, it runs through the 9 weeks or
Yeah.
12, 10 weeks, however many
And it
weeks it is.
also overlaps with Magic Round. So, Magic Round is obviously a big event on the NRL calendar. And having the girls play the game on Thursday in the opening to Magic Round is probably a marquee game in itself. So everyone's traveling up to Queensland. So it probably is an opportunity there to sell the product as well.
Yeah, no, that is very true. And I know it did gather quite a big crowd last year when it was that Thursday night game for Magic Round. So I guess there are quite a few positives, but yeah, I guess I don't know. I still really don't know. So thinking of all those things that we've just spoken about, would you prefer a mid-season Origin competition like the men, or are you happy for it to run the way it's running now?
No, I like the idea of mid-season, mainly because one of the other reasons is also when you've got the men's on, you get a breakthrough star that comes through, or somebody who you haven't expected, they've just hit peak form, like Twal. When he's my get picked. So you see these players that are in form in that 11-week period before, the Origin kicks off. And I would like to see if the females could do the same. So we could have those breakthrough stars come through, or those ones that are hitting peak at the right time, have a chance, an opportunity to play in those games.
Yeah, I think that's the big reason why I would prefer it to be mid-season is that it does. Like unless you're an incumbent, how do you get yourself a
Absolutely.
jersey? Like how do you get yourself onto that team? Unless you are playing for the
Broncos,
team.
Roosters, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, St. George,
those
yeah,
those teams that are usually at the top of the list, or those teams that have members of their coaching staff that are
yeah,
also members of the coaching staff
yeah,
for Origin. Um, so you mentioned that there's a 6 week training window. Do you know
yeah.
do you know much about the process that the girls go through during that 6 weeks, or is it just, training on a couple of days here and there? It's not like a full on let's get everybody together camp
I
kind
think
of.
they obviously have come together, but they also have like trials within that 6 week period to help pick the squad. So whoever stands out in that 6 week period, they'll have in-house games sort of thing, in-house matches. Will be then picked, I guess, for the team, so that they have those in-house challenges.
Okay, cool. Yeah, because I do remember seeing quite a few sort of things on socials, like from Kezi,
Yeah,
obviously, being our Tigers girl that's made the squad, posting being at these camps and
yeah,
things like that. I was just wondering if they had sort of like a really solid, because the men's
yeah,
Blues, once that team's announced, they usually go to Coffs Harbour for a week and
yeah.
it's locked down. You do nothing but prepare for this. Whereas
From
it
all I've heard, it's
seems,
been quite high intense training that they are doing. I'm not sure what scope that looks like, but there has been high intensity training that these girls have. Yeah, all reports of players are saying that's been a really hard 6 week period.
okay, cool. Well, then at least that's a benefit that those girls have of getting that extra training before the
Yeah,
NRLW preseason does kick off, because as we mentioned, that's still a week away, I think,
yeah,
for most NRLW clubs. When we look at it from sort of like we've sort of touched on a few of these things already, but some really big things that we want people to sort of take away and think about, what they think about the women's state of origin in
yeah,
that there's that shorter prep window. So 6 weeks, it's probably not realistic match fitness
no,
because as we know, when you're playing opposing, training, you're only
yeah,
playing against your mates
yeah,
kind of
exactly.
thing. So you don't really take it to that level of playing a proper game. The lack of the trial matches
Yeah.
outside of your internal camp, so you're not seeing what the opposition's doing, you're not learning about other teams' plays.
And it can increase the risk of injury. They're coming in cold. Their bodies aren't warmed up for it. Like we said, they haven't had that intensity to playing on the field. So is there a high risk of an injury in those training camps because they haven't been playing much football? They
Yeah,
haven't been doing high intensity training as before.
a very good point as well. So the men have come off what by the time Origin 1 comes around, it'll be, as you said, I think
About 11
11
weeks.
rounds,
Yeah.
11 rounds plus the
A
preseason
huge
that they had
preseason.
before that. So they're looking at a good 3 to 4 months of training before they go into this camp. And from what I sort of understand about the Blues camp, like yes, they do go away and they do get them all together, but it's not necessarily a lot of heavy work. It's a lot more of tactical work because
Yeah.
these players are sort of the elite of the elite. But because they've had those 16 weeks of non-stop
Yeah.
training, of non-stop match fitness, they don't
They
need
need
that.
to.
They
It's
don't
just
need
running
that.
through plays. It's running through skill sets. It's,
Getting
looking
to
at what the
know each
opposition can
other.
do and getting to know one another. Yeah.
Yeah, whereas the girls, as you've said, are starting from scratch. like obviously these girls will be looking after their health and fitness in the off season, but it's very different being able to take yourself to the gym
Yep.
and do a bit of a workout versus going into a 6 week camp and absolutely flogging flogging
Flogging your
yourself.
body.
So I guess what that really does is it highlights one of the big differences between the women's game and the men's game. And obviously we've spoken a few times about that's one thing that we really want to do is over time is really highlight some of those differences. But I think Origin is seen as the pinnacle of
Yes.
rugby league. Everybody loves talking, it's World Cup year, so
Yep.
we're going to have World Cup later on in this year. But people still
They still love
claim
Origin. They
that
don't.
Origin is the
Yep.
absolute pinnacle of rugby league. You want nothing more than to be able to wear the jersey for your state and, state versus state,
Yep.
mate versus
Versus
mate,
mate.
as it says.
And the games are
Um,
always intense, the men's, the females' games. And that's what the fans want to see. They want to see that intensity. They want to see these players at their peak, going at each other for 70 minutes, 80 minutes, And again, like we said, if they haven't had that training or that, conditioning prior, I don't know if you're going to get that as marquee as event as you possibly could.
yeah, no, you're definitely right there. And I guess it really highlights the fact that there is still that divide between the men's game and the women's game, and something that you know, we'll hope to uncover a few more things as
Yep.
the year goes on between the two. So, looking specifically at this game, in comparison or leading into this game from the 2025 season. So, New South Wales
Yep.
actually were the winners of the
Yep.
2025 season. It was the first time they'd won
Yep.
the season in a couple of years. So they actually didn't win the third game. So
They went down in Queensland, yeah.
they had won the first two games and secured the Shield, and then unfortunately went down in the third game, which sometimes often happens because
You've already wrapped it
that
up in a
and
sense.
and also that team that's lost the first two want to take some kind of pride out of the season. But so New South Wales last year, actually, even though they lost that third game,
Yep.
won an aggregate of 72 points to
Yep.
36 points. So they didn't just win the two games that they did win easily, they
No,
won them quite
quite well.
convincingly. And tonight's game is up at McDonald Jones, so up
Yep.
on the Hunter Valley, up in Newcastle. And Queensland are unbeaten there. So every Origin game that the two sides have played, Queensland have actually won. The
I
last
don't think it means
one,
much. I don't think it
no,
means
you
much.
don't
No,
think it
I don't
means
think, no,
much?
I don't think it means much. I think different teams were playing back then, different, things have changed. I think, yeah, you've had different players in the team. I don't think it changes too much.
Yeah, no, that's that. Well, the last time they won, it was absolute like flogging down.
Yeah.
It was bucketing down, and they only won by 1 point.
Yeah.
I think it was a Lauren Brown field goal that sealed it for them in the end. And I still remember watching it and my heart breaking for the New South Wales girls because they
They've
had put
slogged it out in the wet. Yeah.
exactly left everything out there on the field, and then to lose by 1 point, yeah, is to lose by 1 point at any time. Sometimes I say I'd much prefer to lose by 12 than to
Yeah.
lose by one
100%.
when
100%.
you were really in that game from the
Particularly in a
beginning.
wet weather game where it comes back to defense. It's a hard slog. You're out there, and yeah, it's so much harder, I think, when it's in the wet
Yeah,
weather.
yeah. So we've seen this year as well that with the men's game, we've had a number of different rule changes. So the
Yeah.
big one being the six-man bench. So the NRLW have come out and said they're not going to
Yeah.
a six-woman or a
Yeah.
six-person bench. It
Yeah.
it will remain a four-person bench. Excuse me, and there'll be no six agains in the women's game either. So
Yeah.
it'll be interesting to see how that plays out when I think the girls potentially lend a little bit more to a faster game
Yeah.
because there might not be so much of that physicality. But yeah, the six again rule is an interesting one that they haven't brought across this year, but who's to say it won't turn up in the future? But sticking to 70 minutes, so two 30-minute
Yeah.
halves. And so yeah, there's still a few changes that haven't come into the girls' game, which I
But
think,
I do
yeah,
wonder, Kel, if they, again, like going back to Origin playing mid-season and they've had that training and they've had that, could the girls play the six again rule? Could they play an 80-minute game? Are we making these rules in place because they're not probably as conditioned as the men coming into Origin?
Yeah, well, it's interesting. The girls themselves, like I've seen a number of girls, Kennedy Charrington's one that comes to mind, who's quite vocal about the differences between the men's and the women's game.
Yeah,
And she's a real advocate for having the two games on par. Like
yeah,
it's the same product. It should
yeah.
be the same product. There shouldn't be any differences between the rules,
No,
because it makes it difficult for fans to be
yeah.
watching and not understand, or the
Well,
the fans that
yeah, when
don't
you're
really
trying to sell
know,
it, yeah,
yeah, that they don't really know that there's different rules for the two different competitions. There's different structures in terms of the team setup. There's different structures in terms of the amount of
yeah,
game
yeah,
time that they get. There's a few other things that I think potentially could help to change the product. So there's been a lot of talk around changing the size of the ball
okay.
in order to better suit just the female
Yeah,
physiology, the anatomy of the female hands. But I think outside of that, I don't really, yeah, at this point in time, it's interesting that there's still quite a few of those differences um,
yeah.
in the big picture
Big
of the
picture.
game anyway.
Yeah.
So you don't think that the Newcastle
No,
venue
yeah, no.
gives
I mean,
Queensland an
it's
advantage?
in the end you've got to play on a ground. Like you're going to play on a ground. And again, the teams have changed so much over the last few years, particularly Queensland, as we'll delve into deeper later.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's, yeah, an advantage. No.
Yeah, that is very true. Out of the two teams, which we'll jump into right now, we'll go through the team lists. And once we sort of get through it, we'll see that the New South Wales side is almost fairly identical to the New South Wales side from last year, apart from
Yeah,
a very small few changes. But Queensland have five
debutants.
debutants that
Yeah,
they're bringing in this year. So, on that note, let's jump into the Westpac New South Wales Blues women's side. No longer the Sky Blues; they've dropped that and they've stuck with the name that's very similar to the men's, which
it's
again is
great.
great. We're not really making that big difference between the
Yeah,
two sides. But if we go from 1 to 20, we've got Abby Church in fullback, who is from the Parramatta Eels, Jamie Chapman, Jess Surgis, Isabel Kelly, and Jamie Frezard. The rest of the back line. So Jamie Chapman from the Titans, and then we have Surgis, Kelly, and Frezard, all from the Roosters. Then in the halves, we've got Jocelyn Kelly and Jessie Southwell. So Jocelyn Kelleher, sorry, Kelleher, also from the Roosters.
Roosters
Jessie Southwell does have Brisbane Broncos next to her name, but she still hasn't played a game for them yet, as we know she moved up to Brisbane from
from
Newcastle at the
Newcastle.
end of the 25 season. Then in the forwards, we've got Millie Elliott, aka Millie Boyle from the Roosters, Keely Nizza, who was Keely
Eddie
Davis last
Davis.
year, also from the Sydney Roosters, and Ellie Johnston, sorry, from the Cronulla Sutherland Sharks. Then in the back row, we've got Tiana Penatani Gray from the Sharks and Yasmin Meeks, who was Yasmin Clydesdale from the Knights. Then we've got Olivia Kernick, Olivia Higgins, Kennedy Chering, Olivia Kernick in lock,
Yep.
also from the Roosters. And then on the bench, we've got Olivia Higgins from the Knights, Kennedy Charrington from the Eels, our
Our
girl,
girl.
Kezi Apps, and the only debutante for the New South Wales Blues women's side in Tegan Berry from the St George Illawarra Dragons. So Corbin Baxter and Reba Butler, surprise, surprise, both also from the
Roosters.
Roosters, are on the extended bench, and Quincy Dodd, who is from the Sharks, has dropped off. So she was sort of the backup hooker, I believe.
Yep.
So the coach is John Strange, and I'm going to
Roosters.
throw out a massive pun here, but I believe that there are some very strange decisions that have been made with that team. What do you reckon, Rach?
Yeah, well, so how many is that? 10, 11 of the Roosters in the first group in the
One,
squad?
two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight, nine.
Nine. Okay.
Nine of
Oh,
10.
yeah. So more than half the team are
Yeah.
from the Roosters. I think the biggest one that we've spoken about is Millie Boyle, Millie Elliott. She's been off, what, for 18 months now,
hmm
and she's just come straight back into the team. Now, we spoke about in our first podcast that we want to empower these women who have had babies to come back into the fold and into the team. But does it really work having somebody come back who hasn't played a game for 18 months. Not only, again, we talk about conditioning and gameplay and everything like that, but also there's other players out there that have been on the field, giving all their heart, toiling through, and they really haven't been provided with that opportunity because
Yep.
Millie's just straight back into the team.
Yep. So Millie did go to Vegas at the beginning of this year and
Yep.
played with the LA Roosters, which
Okay.
was a nines competition, I believe.
Okay.
But in saying that, it was a 2 day,
Yep.
like it was a park footy, really. It
Yep.
was it wasn't Origin level
Yep.
rugby league. Yes, as you said, 18 months with no professional football, when there are girls who have missed. So that Semaima Taufa, who was in the front row as well last year, she's unfortunately injured at the moment, and Emma Verens is also missing from the squad. But one massive person that's missing from the front row, and maybe we
Is
are
that a bit biased,
a
maybe?
fraction biased, but the number of people that actually came to me when the team list was released and said, "Where is
It's
Sala
Salah.
Tohetuki? Where is she? How can she not even get a look in on the bench?" Like having Millie on the bench, great, go for it. Give
Yep.
her a bit of
Yep.
an opportunity to get back in. But for me, we've pointed out that there's 9, 10 Roosters in this. The
Yep.
coach is the Roosters coach of the
Yep. Yep.
NRLW. They don't get, they're not in preseason yet.
No.
He's just managed to get those girls an extra 6 weeks of elite training.
Yep. Yep.
Like, how is that fair?
So they're going to come in so much more conditioned, as are the Broncos, and we'll talk about the Queensland team, but they're going to come in much more conditioned than any other team in the competition. And they already have an unfair advantage with their roster. Like we've spoken about this over the last few years, the advantages the Roosters and the Broncos have with their teams. This gives them another advantage. They're coming in hotter than any other team in the competition.
Yeah. And as you mentioned something about um, game match payments as well.
Yeah.
How does
So I
that
believe
work?
it's 15,000. I'm not sure if that's for the season or for the game. You might be able to clarify that for me, Kel. So, what an incentive. If you're the coach of the Roosters, I'm going to say, I'm also the coach of the Blues. Come here, you've got a better chance of playing State of Origin, and therefore an extra chance of getting an extra $15,000, whatever it is, to
Hmm.
play. And when women are not being paid as highly as the boys, that $15,000 is an incredible amount of money.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
No,
it's an incentive to sign with the Roosters, all those teams.
it definitely is. And, we're all for girl power. And we, 100% what you said before is that whole pregnancy policy
Yeah.
and the re-entry into the game
Yeah.
for women. But this just seems to have it just has sort of left a bit of a unsavory taste in people's mouths to
And let's
see
put it
that,
out there that it's just not us because we obviously love Salah. There were a lot of comments coming from people from many different teams saying, how is this going to work? How can you
yeah.
pick somebody who hasn't played for 18 months? So it's not a Tigers bias here. It has been something that is said on many platforms since the teams were announced.
Yeah, the other one, which again, people may say it's Tiger's bias as well, but I don't, I'm throwing it out there. But how does Kezi Apps, who is an elite back rower,
Yeah.
get dropped to the bench and be replaced by Penatani Brown, who is a center? Like, again, that one just didn't make a huge amount of sense to me either.
And from what I've heard or read, Tiana only had to do a 15-minute block at this training and to convince the coach that she was right for that
Mm.
position. So to me, that's a shot in Kezi's face. As you said, has had a elite career in this position, has performed on all levels. And how does somebody who's only done a little bit of, in that 6 week camp, proven her worth?
Yeah.
She can be in the team, but, is it enough to take Kezi's spot?
Yeah, it sort of makes me wonder, like Jess Surgis and Isabel Kelly, both from the
Yeah.
Roosters, but they are elite centers.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
They are, probably the top two centers.
yeah,
Maybe Julia Robinson, she did win the Dally M Center of the Year last
yeah,
year, but Jess Surgis and Isabel Kelly are top tier.
yeah, absolutely.
So Tiana's also been named vice captain
Yeah.
for the Blues. So it just it just doesn't make sense. Is like we'll displace somebody who can play the position of back row with, you know, one hand tied behind her back
Yep.
for somebody that we need to fit in the team somewhere.
Yep.
That's
Yep.
just
Yep.
sort of the way that it feels to me.
And does it reek of, and again, we're biased, an anti-West Tigers agenda as well? Like, we don't want to go down that track, but, there's that
Yeah.
feeling when because, if you speak about the Origin team for the men's, we've also never really, I mean, we've been terrible the last few years, but over the years, when we've had players that have played well, even like with Arby, they
Hmm.
haven't had a chance to have a look in. So is there a narrative within the NRL, NRLW scope not to pick West Tigers players?
Yeah. Who knows?
That's a whole
Well,
nother
on that,
story.
that's right. On that note, let's look at the Queensland
Okay.
Maroons team because there's definitely no West Tigers players in this side. So in the at the back we've got Tamika Upton, who has also been named captain this year from the Broncos. Julia Robinson, also from the Broncos. Rory Owen, from the Eels, and now Shanae Sozolka has been dropped from the centres and has been replaced by Ivana
Lolicio?
Loesio. Yep. Then in the halves, we have a brand new, sorry, then on the other wing, we've got Phoenix Rain Hippie from the Titans. In the halves, we've got Shante Kiria Aratu from the Sharks, who is debuting alongside Lauren Brown from the Titans. Uh, in the forwards, we've got Mackenzie Wheel from the Cowboys, Jada Ferguson in the dummy half position from the Broncos, and Jessica Elliston from the Titans. In the back row, Sienna Lufippo from the Titans and Romy Teitzel from the Broncos, and then Keely Joseph in the lock position from the Eels. Then on the bench, we've got Emma Manzelman, Etessa Paulé, Chelsea Letaduzzi, Brianna Clark, and Destiny Brill moves
Yeah.
into that final spot. Now, a big thing with this side, these guys are coached by Nathan Cross, who, from my understanding, isn't a head coach in the NRLW at this stage. But two big things for these guys is that, firstly, no more Ali Brigginshaw.
Yep.
What are your thoughts around
Well,
that one?
she's probably been the best player in the NRLW for the last 8 years. And we all know what she's brought to the game. She's won awards everywhere. She brings leadership. She's always been able to break the line, find the try line. It's a big out, but they've got a pretty good player stepping in and to replace her too.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting. Like, it's quite a young. Well, that that 5'8" who's come in, she's
Yeah.
quite young, but Lauren Brown does have a lot
Yeah.
of experience in the hub. So, and the fact that Lauren Brown is the seven and
Yeah.
also vice captain, you assume that she's going to take on a lot
Yeah.
of that leadership and just allow um Shantae to, I think it's Shantae, I'm not,
Shantae.
yeah, Shantae to play her natural game. So
Yep.
she's not really going to have to do a lot of
No.
leading
No.
around the park. But Tamika Upton takes the role of captain. So she did share the captaincy last year with Ali Brigginshaw. I think Tamika Upton is just, I think she's a generational player. Like
Yeah,
she
absolutely.
is, like
I
you,
sit there
as
and you watch her in awe. The way she moves along the park, you can watch her in awe. And every time I sit there and watch her, I'm like, God, she's a good player. And then I watch her again and go, God, she's a good player. Like I'm
yeah,
always in awe of how well she plays.
yeah, she just seems to be everywhere and can do
Yep.
everything. So she's great
Yep.
in attack. She
Yep.
seems
She's
to
a
be
threat from anywhere.
everywhere in defense. Like,
Yep.
it doesn't matter where you attack the line from, she's there. She's great under the high ball. She can turn up the speed.
Yep.
Like from a standing start, you've basically got no chance to catch
Yep.
her if you let her go.
And she's won two,
Um,
what, NRLW Dalian medals. Is it two that she's up
yes,
to?
I'm pretty
So,
sure it's two.
yeah. So that just goes to show how consistent she is throughout the seasons.
Yes. Another thing that came out of, interestingly, this team list is a Tessa Poole, who is on the bench, and Brianna Clark, who's so they're both on the bench. They're both forwards, but with the eligibility rule change this year, they are able to now play Origin, even though they have played for New Zealand, I believe.
Zealand.
They've
Yeah,
both
yeah,
played for New Zealand.
yeah. So it's still the same, like they've got that rule in there now, but the other rules still stand in place. You still have to be born in Queensland, have lived there for a certain amount of years, or vice versa. So the same eligibility rules that are in place for the men that have previously been in place are still in place. It's just that I guess they're allowing those tier one nations to have a chance or tier two nations to play
Yeah,
Origin.
guess
So,
that works.
so
Yeah. So looking at this side, and we've said that New South Wales only has one, I think, debutant in
yeah,
Tegan Berry, which is definitely not a bad option. She
yeah,
is also a pretty phenomenal player herself. Queensland have five, one in the halves in particular. They've lost their long-standing captain.
yeah.
So, do we think that this is Queensland rebuilding, or are they just going to start evolving to their new looks team?
I hate the word rebuild. I hate the word rebuild.
Thanks,
We've heard it
Goss.
so, we've heard it so much over the years being Tigers. So I don't think it's a rebuild. I think it's just, they're just bringing in other players and they'll find their own journey. They'll find their, but yeah, no rebuild, no rebuild,
No rebuild.
no rebuild.
Awesome. And it's only 1 year, so it's
Yeah,
it's not really,
exactly.
unless it continues on, it's not really technically a rebuild anyway. It is
No.
just an evolution.
Yeah,
Um, I'm keen to see how they go, and I guess that leads us into a quick chat about the halves pairing. So
yeah,
we spoke about Jesse Southwell, who has made the move from Newcastle to the Broncos this year.
yeah,
A lot, a lot of talk around that at the end of
yeah,
last year of how can Broncos, um, they lose one player, they bring in a player that's better,
yeah,
is what it sort of feels like. So Jesse Southwell and Jocelyn Kelleher in the halves
yeah,
for New South Wales, up against Lauren Brown and Shante Kiriaratu for
yeah.
Queensland. Which of the two halves pairings do you think is going to handle this origin pressure better?
Probably Southwell and Kelleher, purely because they've both played New South Wales, Australia. They've played
Hmm.
at the highest levels of the game. They are a little bit older. Southwell's 21, Kelleher's 26. It has to be a daunting task coming to Origin in the halves. Like, I don't think there'd be any harder position to come into for, on debut than in the halves. So, but they've got a really good player in Brown there. I think she's probably the perfect player to help Ratu in that
Hmm.
position.
Yeah, I agree. And I did see something earlier today with Jessie Southwell, being that the game's played at Newcastle, even though she's no longer technically a Newcastle player, she's played her
Yeah,
whole career there.
yeah,
She
yeah,
said she's taking her old locker
yeah,
space there tonight. Her whole family's going to be
yeah,
there. So that I guess that also plays into it as well, is even though we did say at the top of the show, you said a field's a field, you've got to learn
yeah,
to play wherever you're
yeah,
playing. But that's going to have that little bit of an extra edge
yeah,
for
yeah.
Southwell over Shantae. And but anyway, we'll
We'll
see
have to see.
how it goes. So let's jump to predictions
Okay.
because I think we've spoken quite a bit about the two sides and our thoughts around the changes to the squads. We've talked a little bit about the rule differences. Um, who do you think is a player to watch tonight from either side?
Okay. Hope it's not a close game because we know that some of the Queensland players in Brown can get them home in tight games. Brown and Robinson, sorry, can get them home in tight games. They've got that killer instinct. They can get them home in
Hmm.
tight games. We've seen them, do that numerous times. So if it's a tight game, we need to probably watch out for them because they can kick a goal from anywhere or whatever. So
Yeah.
probably those. But I'm going back to Penatani. I'm really interested to see how she goes. Does that play work? We could be all sitting here going, coach was right. They knew what they were
Yeah.
doing. But so I'll be interested to see how that positional change goes today with
Yep,
Tiana.
perfect. So I actually previewed this game as well for the League Unlimited magazine. And so the player I said to watch for New South Wales is Jamie Chapman. I
Yeah,
think she is a phenomenal football player. She's just come off the back of that Rivals series that she did with Ali Brigginshaw, Reece
yeah,
Walsh, and Josh Adokar, where there was a lot of mental challenges that they were put through as well as physical challenges. And I just think that you could see from the end of that she's such a competitive person
yeah,
and
yeah.
she took a lot of responsibility for the rugby league side not
I never
winning.
watched the series, so yep,
Yeah.
okay.
So the rugby league team actually came second to the rugby union team because they made a decision to have, instead of getting Jamie Chapman to do the speed work, they got her to do a strength
Okay.
challenge. And so she sort of took a lot of that on her shoulders. She said she probably should have pushed a little bit harder to get Ali Brigginshaw to do the strength section with Fox
Yeah.
and for Jamie to do the speed work. But yeah, she just from
Yeah.
that, I'd never really listened or taken a lot of interest in her outside of, Origin. But I
Yeah. Yeah.
thought
Yeah.
during that rival series, you actually got to know each of the four of them a little bit better and see
Okay.
what makes them tick. So I think she'll be up for a big
Awesome.
one. What do you think could be the deciding factor in the game tonight?
I think the leadership is a big factor. We're coming in with one debutant, it was spoken about, and numerous ones for Queensland. So that leadership factor and that experience that our girls bring. But as we alluded to before, Kelly and Surges in the centres. Like that's going to be a hard task for the edges and the centres to stop for Queensland. Like they're going to
Yeah,
have their work cut out, particularly if it's a dry field out there and our halves can get some forward momentum in some space.
yeah. Well, that's it. I haven't looked at the weather forecast for Newcastle, but if it's anything like it is down here, it's still what? It's still 24 degrees
Yeah.
at the moment in Sydney, and it's nothing but sunshine for the last week or two. So it's definitely going to be a fast, dry track up there. I think the deciding factor is for me is just going to be the experience of the halves. I think, we've spoken about it quite a bit already, so I won't go into it too much, but Lauren Brown is going to have to take a lot of the responsibility for leading that Queensland side around the park, whereas the New South Wales side is going to have a little bit more choice in who takes responsibility. They can both
Yeah.
play their game without having to worry too much about the other one because they're going to know
Yeah.
that who they're playing
Absolutely.
with is quite experienced. And surprisingly, like I think you mentioned, like these girls can kick goals.
Yeah.
Like Jocelyn Kelleher, I don't know what her conversion rate is,
Yeah.
but it's got to be up there. Like she's got a pretty mean boot on her when it comes to kicking those conversions. So
Yep.
I don't think it's going to matter where the side
No.
scores. Um, yeah,
Yeah,
she's
they've both got players that can kick. So I
yeah.
think, yeah,
All right. What about a score prediction?
32-16. And I don't know why.
32-16. Wow.
Like you said,
That's
if it's dry park, high scoring game,
yep. All right. So obviously New South
yeah,
Wales.
absolutely, yes.
Okay, cool. So I'm gonna go New South Wales 28, Queensland 14.
Okay, so we're going to go convincing wins either,
Yeah,
both of us,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. No field goal in this one, thankfully.
No 33-14 victory or anything like that.
No, no. All right. So before we move on to talk about our Tigers boys, I have a question for you.
Okay,
So if Origin is the highest level of the women's game right now, and considering everything that we've spoken about today, think, we've sort of touched on this already,
yeah.
but taking in everything that we've spoken about, should it still sit outside the calendar or moving forward, should it move into the center of the
I
season?
think she needs to move into the centre of the competition. How that works, like you said, whether we shut down the comp, we can't obviously, I don't think you can play it concurrently like you do with the men's team because the depth's just not there to have players come up. So do you shut down the comp for 3 weeks? And then what does that look like in the scope of TV scheduling and all that network side of things? There's been some chat to put it at the end of the season, but then that go into internationals. If they could work out a system, definitely a fan of having it in that middle part of the year like they do with the boys.
Yeah, I think I'm the same. I think now that there's 10 teams in the competition, we definitely need to work out how to lengthen
Yeah,
the season and get the girls more exposure every week. I think it does make it tricky by shutting the comp down,
yeah,
um, you know, every fortnight for 6 weeks. But
yeah,
I think we've seen as well in the women's comp, there's more injuries in the
yeah,
women's comp. I think because of everything we've spoken about, the shorter preseason, the shorter season, that if every team was given a buy, like 3 buys throughout the
yeah,
season, it allows for those teams to keep that moment, like to
yeah,
give their players a rest without,
yeah.
you know, I don't know what I'm trying to say
I know
here,
what you're
but
trying to say. Yeah, yeah,
yeah, give them a week to recover. those girls that are playing Origin obviously don't get that rest, but you would expect that those girls are the elites. They're the
They're earning
ones.
$15,000 to play,
That's
they
right.
can,
They're the ones that, are at the peak of their
yeah.
performance, so they can do that. Um, but yeah, so maybe we'll shoot PVL this episode and get him to have a think about it. All right, so let's talk Tigers now for the next 20 minutes or so.
Beautiful.
Yeah, very excited. The girls' game does kick off at 7:35 tonight, so make
Yeah,
sure once you finish listening to us, get yourself in front of a TV so you can cheer our Blues girls on to
absolutely.
victory. But the Tigers, man, it feels like forever
No,
ago. Like
it
it was a
does.
week ago. We were recording this
Yeah,
episode exactly a week ago, and then the four of us, so you, me, Marina, and Dan, all jumped in my
yep.
car, headed to Leichhardt, and wow, what
Take me
a
back.
game!
Take me back. I love it.
It was such an amazing game. So the West Tigers came out on top, 33-14. Kept the Raiders scoreless. I won't talk too much because we'll jump into our three things. So I don't
Okay.
want to steal your thunder just in case. But let's jump in first. The spark. What was the moment, the player, or the effort that you took away from that team or
Has to
that
be
game?
Royce Hunt's try. Oh my, and just the way it was set up, it went through the forward hands, like it, ball
Yeah.
in. Then Fanua was out there, he could have, scored the try as well. But to see a prop run 40 meters at that time in the game, it's just, and that hill going off, like, yeah, put him in fullback, whatever way, ball is out. Like, it was phenomenal. And the crowd were just absolutely erupted. I've never seen Leichhardt go off like that before.
Yeah. No, it was phenomenal. And it wasn't just Twali to Hunt.
It was
we had
Sione.
we had Sione and hooker
Yeah,
at that
yep,
point in
yep.
time. The league's biggest hooker.
Yeah. And the
Because
sidestep that he put on fullback,
yep,
like
yep,
crazy.
yep. So massive shout out to Royce. We are so impressed with the way that you're playing
Yeah.
this year. My spark would be the crowd. I think, yeah,
Yeah.
the crowd was just incredible. The Viking clap
Yeah.
was
Awesome.
hilarious.
Yep.
Okay, I probably sort of agree with Reedy a fraction. The whole FU Canberra was maybe a little bit too far, but at
And I
the
think
same time,
sometimes when emotions are over and you're excited and we haven't seen our team play like this, like emotions are going to boil over. Nobody got hurt, you know.
exactly, it's rugby league. We're
Yeah.
not, watching, international chess or,
Yes.
anything like that. It's like it's the bogan sport. Let's
Exactly.
be real.
Exactly.
Okay, the frustration. So the play, the decision, or the pattern that had you shaking your head.
I don't want to allude to the referee too much because, we won. But that 10 meters for the Raiders seemed to be a lot skinnier than the 10 meters for us.
Hmm.
It looked like the ref was taking us back 12, 13 meters, while at times he was actually walking Canberra onside. And that's incredibly frustrating for consistency. Again, we harp on about consistency with the refs, but come on, like it's not that hard. Manning the 10, it probably isn't that one of the hardest rules to officiate in the game. Get back 10, done.
Yeah.
But for him to be walking Canberra on site was driving me insane all game.
Yeah. My frustration was a little bit similar in with the six again
Yep.
throughout the game. I feel like we basically got none
We got
for
one with
the
17 seconds to go or something
yep,
ridiculous. Yep.
yep. It definitely felt like a square up. But where we sit only a couple of rows back from the
Yep.
sideline. So um, we can see everything from
Yep.
where we're sitting and
And you can
you
hear
know,
things from Benji as well. You can hear Benji's frustration. Like, and Benji's not one to really get upset with the referees. He's pretty cool, calm, and collected on the sideline. But he's even throwing his hand back. And you can hear the players, throwing their hands up, going,
yeah.
what's that decision? So the players are also feeling it.
Yeah, and when when it felt like Canberra was all over us, like they
Yep.
were laying all over us
Yep.
a lot of the time. I haven't looked at the numbers, but I could probably guarantee that our play the ball speed was a little bit slower than theirs
Yep.
because there was
They were getting
definitely,
away with it. They were
yeah,
definitely getting away
definitely
with it.
times they were getting away with it. And there were, as you said, we don't want to talk, the refs, but if you can't talk the refs when you're winning, you can't talk the
Yeah,
refs
absolutely.
when you're losing because
Yeah.
people then just say that, you're
You
making
blame the refs for loss.
excuses
Yeah.
and you're blaming the refs for a loss. That's right. Um, Appy's sin bin, it's it's a hard one. And it sort of probably comes into my talking point as well
Yeah,
because we've now lost him for 3 weeks. Um, at the time, it looked like nothing.
yeah,
The fact that Noah, yes, okay, fair enough. The poor kid's now got to go have
yeah, yeah.
surgery, but on 2 ankles. So that's definitely not all the result
No,
from that one tackle. Um, but even NRL physio, who he reports, on every injury essentially
mm,
on in the
yeah,
NRL, he said to him that was not a hip drop.
yeah. I don't
It
think it
was
was a hip drop either.
momentum.
Yeah, and I don't know what smaller blokes are supposed to do in that. When you've got a player running forward, you're coming from behind, just legs are going to naturally swing out a little bit. It's just
Yeah,
natural momentum.
that's
So I don't know.
physics.
It's physics, exactly. So I don't know what RP was meant to do then. You can't not try to make the tackle because then you're potentially letting the opposition score the try. I don't
Exactly.
know what RP was supposed to do then. And the fact is, he's got the 3 weeks because he's had so much prior loading.
Yeah,
If it would have been 1 week without the prior loading.
yeah,
But this is the way Appy tackles and Appy defends. He's full
yeah.
intensity. He's in
So
there.
I guess the big thing with the carryover points, and yes, he hasn't been technically charged with any of the others. It probably does, these 3 weeks does give him an opportunity to potentially work with John Morris and the,
Yeah.
the defensive team on just tweaking his technique a little bit.
Yep. But we
We've
don't want to
spoken.
lose his intensity either. We do, yeah,
No,
that's all.
no.
Yep.
It's more the way that he sort of comes in around the legs. And
Yep.
if you come with that much momentum, you are naturally, because of inertia,
Yep.
Newton's
Yep.
first law of physics, my year 10, any of my
There
year
comes the
10
science
physics
teacher in
kids
you.
could tell you that, an object will keep moving in the
Yep.
direction it's going until it's
Yep.
stopped by an outside force. So the top of his body stops when it makes contact, but the bottom of his
Yep.
body is
It's
going to
going to
keep.
come through.
That's right. All right, I won't keep on the physics talk, but did you have a talking point from the game? That was sort of mine.
Mine,
So
it tied into with the crowd, the supporters, but also probably, and I won't allude to any particular commentator, making a comment that, the Tigers crowd needs to calm down. They can't, in the way they acted on the hill, but also for him to sit there and say, oh, I've got manners. Women and children go to the game. They shouldn't. I'm a woman of the game. I go to the game. I cheer louder than anybody. I'm not going to the game to sit there and drink $40 cocktails and eat cucumber sandwiches.
no, we did
You
that
know what I mean?
beforehand.
Exactly. But you know what? Like, don't feel like you have to protect me. If I don't want to go to a game of football and hear a bit of swear words and hear a bit of, carry on, then I'm not going to go to the game.
Yeah. And I do realize I said Reedy before. It wasn't Reedy, it was
Yeah.
Bullfrog.
Yes, that's him.
Um,
Yeah.
I did get into a little bit of a discussion with people on Twitter, but thankfully, 99% of the people were in agreement
Yeah.
that, he took it too far. There was one person that said, well, don't complain when your kids hear swear words. I'm like, well, A, I don't have
I don't
kids,
have
but
kids.
thanks anyway. And B, I was a high school teacher for
Yeah.
14 years. I've heard worse coming
Yeah.
out of the mouths of kids
Yeah.
than I've heard on the
I grew
hill.
up watching country rugby league with my family. I was hearing these words on the sideline from a 6-year-old. So, I wasn't sheltered from it,
No,
and, you know, so, and, like we said before, it's a high intense game. Things are going to be said and done.
that's right.
Let us have our fun.
That's correct. That is correct. Okay, one standout player from the game.
Tito. He
Tito.
was, yeah, brilliant from the back. 192 meters. I don't know how many post-contact meters, but he just laid that platform from the back. And just his energy and just the way he gets about. He's just like a little energizer bunny,
Oh,
Tito.
yeah. We actually mentioned, so Brett unfortunately couldn't come to that game. So a friend of mine came with me,
Yep.
and I sort of mentioned to her at one point, I was like Tito is just playing out of his skin.
Yep.
Like he just
Yep.
had, anytime he had his hands on the ball, he was gone.
Yep.
And, he just needs to get a little bit more space and he's going to be
Yep.
through that line
Yep.
and
And he
scoring
plays so
us
far above his weight. Like he's not a big boy, but he hits and he makes meters and he's playing so far above his weight. Like just yeah, I can't rate
100%.
enough about him.
He just needs to get himself across that try line a
Absolutely.
couple of more times. Mine is probably Sam Weller, like Sam with that offload to Dewey for that
Yeah.
try, like
His best
how
hands in
he
the game. Like
yeah,
incredible.
how he got that ball away. Like people, oh, it's so far forward. I'm like,
It wasn't forward.
Dewey was right on the
Yeah.
line. Like
Yeah.
it couldn't have, if it was
Dewey's reaching his
forward,
hands backwards to catch the ball. Like
it may
it's,
have
yeah,
been like
we'll take
millimeters
it.
forward, but
We'll take
exactly.
it.
How many times has Jack Whiten scored quarterback,
Yeah.
tries off quarterback passes
And we've
against
had
us?
passes
But
pulled up that didn't go forward. We'll take it. Take
yeah,
it.
cool. All right, so let's jump in to this week. So this week we have a pretty big, well, every week's a big week, but this one's going to be a little bit more of a test for the boys. We play the Cronulla Sharks on Sunday
Yeah.
afternoon at 4:05 p.m. at I think it's Ocean Protect Stadium is
Stadium,
what it's
something
called
ridiculous.
now. It's no longer Shark Park, it's Ocean Protect Stadium. So firstly, do you want to run through a couple of the changes that Benji's had to make
Well,
this
in the
week?
team list, Jarell comes in, but then we're hearing that Tino has been training as well in the that position.
Hmm.
Hope's obviously in for RP. Suka's come in for Kai Pierce-Paul, who's off for concussion protocols. And Tito's gone to fullback. So I think that's it.
What are your thoughts on Tito at fullback?
I said after last week's game, I think Gary asked me, who do you put at fullback? Tito. He went back there when Buller came off. He's played there before when Buller was unavailable, and he's an adequate job, quite a good job actually being there. So, yeah, I don't think you could have picked anybody else to go back there, unless it's
No.
Royce. But
Yeah, true. I think my reason why I'm more than happy with Tito going back there is it only disrupts one
yeah,
position. Like people were saying, oh, you put Adam
no,
there and you
yeah,
put so
yeah,
and so there and
yeah.
it's like,
You don't have to shift. Yeah,
why would you disrupt multiple places when we were already down three players?
yeah.
So we already have to make three changes. Why would we move Adam Dewey
Who's been killing
from
it in the halves?
exactly the position where literally just before we came on, Paul Sirenen, who is in the New South Wales Blues camp,
Yeah,
is saying how Dewey could be a smoky. Like
yeah,
he is playing the perfect halfback
yeah,
role.
yeah.
Why would you move him to
Look,
fullback
yeah.
to bring Jock in to play with Luai? Like, yes,
Which is just
Jock,
another halves combination for the year. Like we've already had it
exactly.
being changed around so often this year.
Exactly. It's not Jock and Adam, which we
No,
saw worked well. Where you're
no.
putting Jock in a position where he has to play with a different
Yeah,
half. So I'm super excited for Tito at the back because as we saw from all those yardage carries that he
yeah,
made last week, if he's running, a lot of those were
yeah,
off passes. Where if he's
yeah,
going to be making these
yeah.
straight
He's
off the
got further.
catch,
Yeah,
he's got that open field and he'll have that freedom to be able to look for those holes as he's
absolutely.
sort of coming back towards the line. Um, KPP is obviously a big out as
Yeah.
well. I didn't even see what happened to him last week that led to
I
the
didn't see the
concussion.
injury. I just saw him come off, and I didn't
Yeah,
realize then that it was a cap two. So he can
yeah.
play for the 11 day
So
stand down.
it's unfortunate because it's literally 10 days
Yeah.
between. And from what I understand, the club could um apply for
I'm not sure.
compensation.
Adele said in the podcast on the weekend that that's not factual, but I had read
Right.
the same thing that you spoke about, that you can get a doctor in there to assess whether he's okay to play. But Adele did say on the podcast on Sunday night that that's not factual.
Right. Yeah,
So I
I
don't
did
know.
actually remember hearing that.
Yeah.
But interestingly, Tony Suka comes straight from
Yeah.
KOE, straight into the starting side. A lot of us thought that potentially Alex Seyfarth would have taken that spot. But Big Red keeps his spot on the
Yeah.
bench, and Tony Suka,
Yeah, he
you went
played
out.
well in yeah, he played
Yeah,
well in
you went out
KOA on
on
the
Saturday.
weekend. Yeah,
Yeah,
he's just a really reliable second rower to me. He's not going to be a Samuel, he's not going to be a KPP, but he's going to do his job, I think. And I think the reason I haven't put Seyfarth into the starting side is he's actually playing a really good role at the end of the game in that 15 or 20 that he comes on.
yeah,
He's not getting tired, he's not having the brain explosions he does when he gets tired. So I actually probably think that 20 minutes that Seyfarth is playing off the bench probably suits him a little bit
yeah.
more than
He
coming
wasn't
on as a
put on
starter.
report,
Yep.
which is good
Yeah.
for him. Okay, so what about a key matchup or a Sharks player that's a bit of a threat to us this weekend?
I have to say Kennedy, only because in the 7 games that he's played against us, he's scored 5 tries, so we can find the try line. And we know he can find the try line. If he gets in between two players, he's got that footwork that allows him to get through. So we have to be wary of Kennedy and make sure that we don't give him too much space to get through.
Yeah. Yeah. For me, it's Talakai.
Yeah,
Like in the centers, that guy is a beast.
yeah, kills us every time.
And he does. And I guess this weekend he's going to be up against Star. I
I think
think
so.
that's
Yeah,
how it works.
yeah,
Star, and if Gerald does drop out and Tino comes in, it'll be Star and Tino that'll
yeah.
be up against Talakai and Stone Street. Stone Street, I'm not
No,
super worried about. He's tall, he's lanky, but Talakai is that
yeah,
moving, brick shit house, for use of
yes,
a better term. Like he is solid, and
yeah.
he found the try line a couple of times
They're going to
last
attack that
weekend.
side. Sharks will
Yeah,
attack that side definitely coming into
yeah.
this game.
But I think we probably need to take advantage when we're attacking to attack that side as well,
Yep,
especially if Tino does play with that aerial assault,
yep,
because he's going to be a lot more nimble
yep,
than
yep,
Talakai in
absolutely.
that particular sense. Um, what about the halves pairing? So we've got Trindle and Hines for the Sharks versus Luai and Dewey for the Tigers. What are your thoughts? How do you think we match up against those two guys?
Both play different sorts of games, I guess. Nico, I haven't watched much of the Sharks games this year, so I can't really assess how they're playing. I can only go on what we're playing, and if our forwards get our momentum, I can just see our Luai and Dewey cutting in through the line and making some space. You might be
Yeah.
better off talking a bit about how those Sharks players have been going this year, Kel.
Yeah, no, I'm probably the same. I probably haven't watched a huge amount, but I have seen that Trindle is probably playing slightly better than Nico
Okay.
at this point in time. I think the big thing with Nico is he gets in his own head.
Yeah,
So we saw that when we played them at Leichhardt that
yeah,
year, where we absolutely annihilated
yeah.
them. Like
32-6 or something
Nico
like that. Yeah,
Nico just made mistake after mistake. And I think because we got in his head so early
yeah.
and we were forcing those errors. So I think if
Put
the
some pressure on
boys,
him.
exactly, if the boys can do that, and you mentioned the forward packs, like Terrell May up against Adam Fanua-Blake, this game potentially could determine
Yeah,
who gets a Blues jersey.
yeah.
Those two are two names that I've heard quite a bit being talked about for the Blues
Yeah.
jersey.
I
I
wonder
would,
though, with the news around Terrell that we were hearing today, with that
yes,
will potentially give Terrell a
a bit
boost
of a
going into the
lift.
game. So we don't know, obviously unconfirmed rumours that he's extended his contract. But
Yes.
if it's true, that will give him a
Yeah,
massive boost going into Sunday.
massive boost. And I think Fanua Pole against Toby Rudolph
Yeah.
is the
And he
other
had a wow of a game on the week on Thursday. He probably played his
I
best game for
I would definitely
12
be
months.
putting Fanua Pole above Toby Rudolph at
Yeah.
this point in time. Brayley and Hope, like Blake Brayley is gunning for
Yeah.
a New South Wales Blues jersey in that hooker position. And
It's such a shame Arpie's not there because that would have been a wonderful matchup for that
exactly.
Blues
There's
jersey.
there's quite a lot of matchups that
Yeah.
almost could have been Blues deciding matchups. Nico and AD, Fanua
Yeah.
Blake and May, Brayley and Appy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very true. It is a bit of a shame that Appy's missing because Blake Brayley is definitely in that conversation
Yeah.
alongside Reece Robson. But
Robson.
I think as per most of our games this year, our bench is so
They just
much
come and do their
stronger.
job, don't they? They come on. We don't miss a beat when they come on.
No.
With Sione coming on and the likes and Royce and Seyfarth. Like they don't miss a beat when they come on. They just the starting forwards have laid the platform and they just continue and carry that forward.
That's right. And it's something that we've been lacking for so long is that every time our starting forwards have come off, we've had that dip in intensity, we've had
Yeah.
that dip in drive, but now we're seeing the complete
Yeah.
opposite. The team lifts, we're just making meters. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, once again, I'm super, super excited to see how the boys
Yeah.
the boys go with that. So, um, we have an ambush event this
Yes.
Sunday. So starting at 2:30 at the Orange Grove. Do you want to talk a little bit about
Yeah,
that one?
so we're starting at 2:30. We've got Gary Jack coming. He was at our previous event at Sherwood. He'll be again talking about his autobiography that is released and about his time in the game. It was a really good interview last time I was out there. So if you didn't get a chance to watch it, come out to the Orange Grove and he'll be chatting. There'll be a podcast chat. Kelly, myself, Gary, Steve will be there having a bit of a chat. and there'll be lucky door prizes and Yachty's quiz, and
Yeah.
and just a good build up to our game.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm hoping to be there. I am supposed to be running a half marathon on
You're
Sunday,
crazy
which
girl, crazy.
I've just come back from the physio and I am in a world of pain, but I'm hoping that it fixes itself by Sunday morning. If you're any type of a prayer person, say a prayer for me out there, Tigers fam. But yeah, so the guys from the Orange Grove also asked me to let you guys know that there is also happy hour
Okay.
on. So there's special prices on drinks and there's also lunch specials as well. So you can get a really good deal
Yeah.
on a feed. The game kicks off at just after 4 o'clock. So um, these events are always a lot of
Yeah.
fun just to get in,
Well,
have
this is
someone
how
to
we all
watch.
met each other, really. And we've
That's
met so
right.
many other friends through these things. I didn't have anybody to go to games with. And then I started, getting to know Kel through social media. And then I turned up to an ambush event. And now 3 years later, we're sitting here
Here we
doing
are.
podcasts and,
That's
and stuff
right.
together. And we've made so many wonderful friends. So it's not only enjoying your football together, it's the friendships that we've been creating within that, the
That's
ambush world.
exactly right. And until I sort of met Brett, I didn't have anybody to go to the footy with, so I very rarely went to the footy. And then I met him, was lucky that he was a Tigers supporter as well, but with his work, quite often he misses games, so I don't care anymore because I know I can
Yeah.
find someone to
Yeah.
to drag along now that I've met through the ambush crew. And it's just, and
It's
I
just,
guess on
yeah, it's just
on
fun,
that
isn't it?
yeah, on that note, I haven't even told you yet this, Rach, but we have our guest locked in for next Thursday will be none other than Auntie Linda. So,
Oh, yay!
so yeah,
Yeah.
so Linda will be joining. Unfortunately, Rach will miss next week, but Linda will be joining me. We hope
We
to be
love
back
Linda.
in
I
the
can't wait for that
studio.
one. But we will
So
have a bit of a chat prior to it. Kel and I will get on, similar to what we're doing now, and have a bit of a chat about the game as well.
yep,
Hopefully, if that all
yep,
fits in
yep.
with our
Um,
schedules.
so yeah, Linda confirmed that she is keen to come on. So um, next week, the whole Tigers world who haven't had the pleasure of meeting Auntie Linda
How can you not love her? She's brilliant.
will get to know her with me, and yeah, very excited for that. So, but before we wrap up, Rach, a score prediction. What do you think?
I think with the changes in our spine, it's probably going to be closer than what I originally thought. So probably going to go about a 2014 scoreline to us,
2014?
obviously,
Hmm.
because I still think we've got enough culture within our team to hopefully keep this momentum going, even with the changes. But also, while we're here, and I know we're running out of time, let's get behind Luai. I did want to mention that previously as well. I know there's a lot of talk around it, and there's a few very high opinions of his decision, but he's still with us for 18 months. And the last thing we want is for us to turn against Luai because then it's like we're turning against the team. We've got
Yeah.
such great momentum on the field and great momentum off the field. Let's just keep laying that foundation and building that platform.
No, I 100% agree. And it is, sorry, remiss of me for not bringing it up earlier. It
Yeah,
was something that I wanted to chat about. But, as Benji said in his press conference yesterday, and that man is just pure
he speaks
class,
so well, so well.
pure class. He spoke about the fact that they brought Jerome here to do a job,
Yeah.
and he's done that job
Yeah,
in the
and he's
last
still going to
18
do that
months,
job.
and he's got another 18 months to continue doing that job. He said, if we didn't have those clauses in Jerome's contract, we wouldn't have got him here in the
Yeah,
first place. So, everybody bagging out the clauses, go for it.
yeah,
But, we didn't have them in there. Even Richo has said that himself. We didn't have them in there. We would never have
absolutely.
got him here
When you're
in the first
enticing
place.
somebody who's won 4 premierships from Penrith to come to where we were at the Tigers, you have to have pay a little bit of extra money, have different clauses. You're not going to get them on the same conditions that you had them at Penrith.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, once the dust settles on this and we get back into the footy, I think the big thing for Jerome though is he has to have a pretty solid game
Yeah,
this weekend. If
yeah,
he has a solid
absolutely.
game this weekend,
The
it
noise dies
silences the
down. If he
critics.
doesn't,
Yeah,
that's when the media starts talking. That's when fans start getting worried. So that's actually on Luai to go out there and perform as well.
that's right. And I think the boys will have that in the back of their head. And as we spoke, if these rumors around Terrell and his contract extension are correct, then that's further motivation for him,
Yep.
motivation for Talon, because we
Yep.
know that they basically come
As
as
a
a
package.
package deal. You don't get one without the other. So I think the next 3 weeks without Appy, without Buller, is going to be a really big. It's probably going to be the most important three
Yep.
weeks
Of the
of
season. It's going
of
to
the
really build,
season.
show if that character that we've developed through winning, whether that will continue to come through, even if there's a loss or two in that 3 week period.
Yeah,
Will that culture with that sense of connection still continue?
exactly. On that note,
You've got to give your scoreline.
I know, I thought I would get out of it. I
Okay,
am going to go 24-18,
both close games. We
2014.
both want a
I was
close
pretty
game or
close
don't want
last
a close game.
week.
You
I
were.
was pretty close last week. I said 32-12 and it was 33-14. So I'll be pretty happy if I can come close to that again this week. But once again, Rach, thank you so much
Thanks,
for
Kelly.
joining me. Thank you, everybody, for listening. This is episode 3 of Hear Her Roar. You can find us on Instagram as well as along with the West Tigers TV boys on Facebook and Instagram as well. So tune in next week. As I said, we'll have Linda joining us and we'll be talking all things Tigers' big win against the Sharks and also having a little bit of a review of the women's origin from tonight. So
Perfect.
thank you so much, everybody. Have a great week and go the
And the
Tigers
Blues.
and the Blues.